and laughter made you long for someone far away. And were there moments when you wish that you could share a smile with someone that you don't see every day? Tuned in together, man and woman, boy and girl. Tuned in together, we're connected to the world. The world on NBC, let's all be there. NBC, let's all be there. People come together in the moments that they share. On NBC, let's all be there. People come together in the moments that they share. On NBC, let's all be there.
A shocking accident destroys Kitt's memory.
Stay away from me.
Can guest star Jason Bateman help Michael save him?
Kitt!
Knight Rider, Sunday.
Sunday on Knight Rider, a shocking trap short-circuits Kitt's memory.
Do we know each other?
Can Michael revive Kitt in time to foil some hooded heavies? Sunday.
Production 58619, Lost Night. This episode was written by Robert Foster and James M. Miller, directed by Sidney Hayers. It originally aired on NBC December 9th, 1984, which was a Sunday night at 8 p.m. It was filmed from June 12th through the 21st of 1984. It was the 51st episode to air, but the 44th episode to be produced. This episode was filmed immediately after Kitt vs. Carr, so it was the second episode for season 3 to be filmed, and as such you're going to see some things that have changed from some of the other episodes we've gone over recently. Lost Night also had the original working title of Kitt Phone Home, which is interesting because later in this episode Kitt mistakenly calls Doug Elliot, just like Elliot the boy from the movie E.T., which is where E.T. phone home, Kitt phone home. You get it. Okay. Anyways, synopsis reads as follows. Michael is devastated when an accident short-circuits Kitt's memory, leaving the supercar in the hands of a young teenager. Now, before we get into this, I promised you guys in our last commentary, at the very end of it when I was teasing this episode, I said that Lost Night was very special to me, and it's the reason pretty much that I'm a Knight Rider historian today. And here's the quick story on that. So in the late 1980s, I was a young kid, and there was a station out of Secaucus, New Jersey, WWOR.
Turbo boost!
You're on track for action
Let's take him out.
with Michael Knight
Give me everything you got.
and Kitt,
Michael, he's about to fire.
the indestructible car.
Let's show him what you can do, huh, buddy?
Together, they're unstoppable.
They tried to kill your brother at the hospital.
Television's top crime-fighting team. The Man, the Machine, David Hasselhoff stars. Knight Rider.
Fasten your seatbelts for 2 hours of Knight Rider. Today at 3 on Channel 9.
That station, every single day from 3 to 5 p.m. would play Knight Rider. So after I got home from school, I would turn it on and I would watch Knight Rider. And one of my memories of watching on WWR was the first time I saw Lost Night. And I had seen the show before a little bit, but it wasn't until I saw Lost Night on WWR around 1987, 1988, that I'm like, I love this show and I want to see every episode. This is the episode that did it for me. I don't know if maybe I saw myself in the young Doug Wainwright who's in this episode and, you know, fantasized that I was the one to find Kitt. I don't know why, but as a young, 7-8-year-old watching Lost Night, just something clicked for me. And to this day, I always remember that special memory. So you can thank Lost Night for this entire channel, I guess. So with that said, let's lovingly go over this episode. All right, so during that opening montage, we see KITT going through this tunnel. This is a tunnel on Malibu Canyon Road in California, and this was stock footage, not specifically filmed for Lost Night. What's interesting is this tunnel was also seen in KITT versus Carr, but from the other side. So let's take a look at it here. So you can see here's what it looked like in 1984, and whoops, there's what it looks like now. Obviously, the 1984 graffiti has been replaced with 2022 graffiti. But interestingly enough, look at this. This whole area was painted white at one point, as you can see here. Pickle, take your time. I'll wait. Anyways, but look at that here. The rocks appear to still be discolored from whenever they removed that white paint, which I think is kind of cool. But if we were to go through this tunnel, so let's just drive through the tunnel a little further and turn around, and right here is the scene where Michael and KITT in KITT versus Carr come out, and KITT says honking in a tunnel, and Michael says it's an American tradition. So that all took place, and that, I'm sure both of those were filmed the exact same time. They probably set up the camera on this side, filmed KITT, set it up on the other side, had him go back the other direction. And by the way, this is Carr, the hardtop stunt car that we've seen since the beginning of the middle of season 1. All right. Actually, this car, right? So this is more of that opening montage, and this is that hardtop stunt car seen a little bit closer. This is reused footage from season 2's Nightmares. All right, so now we move to the inside. Again, we've reverted back in terms of where things are with the cars, since we're now only at the second episode filmed for season 3. And because of that, they are still using, albeit sporadically, the season 2 hero car as an insert car, and they're using, and for some other purposes as well. But you can see here that this is still the hero car for season 2. You can see the colored overhead console buttons. You can just barely make out the pod buttons there. This is the car, as most of you know, that will become the right-hand blind drive car in just a couple episodes. So after Lost Night, they filmed Night in Disgrace, and it was, I believe, during Night in Disgrace that this car was sent off to George Barris' shop to be converted into the right-hand blind drive car. But for this episode, it still exists, and here it is. Okay, so Devin and Bonnie are watching a building being imploded, and just out of curiosity, I looked up this Hotel King Cotton, and this building is actually in Memphis, Tennessee, and it was demolished in 1984. So obviously they're not going to demolish a building specifically for Knight Rider for filming. So this was stock footage. Now, I would have expected this building to have been demolished like in the 60s or 70s, and that it was old stock footage. But actually, this building was destroyed in 1984, and this stock footage is from 1984, which is the same year Lost Night was filmed. So it's period correct, just not location correct. And for those of you wondering where this was filmed at, so you can see this is a real construction site. There's obviously a building being erected right here. According to production reports that we have, this was actually filmed on Oxnard Street in Los Angeles. This building is going to be a Marriott hotel. And if we look at it today, that's the building right there that they were building, that they were constructing here. Right there. And I can't tell for sure, these glass buildings, one of these might be this building. It's kind of hard to tell. But this is definitely the site of that filming location, obviously before this Marriott was finished. All right, so then they do the demolition, which again was just footage, not actually filmed for this episode. But they clearly had a fan here and dust blowing over everyone. And I'd never even really noticed how dirty Devin, look how dirty Devin got. From this scene. You never really notice it until the Blu-ray, and you got this guy back here, even though he's getting covered in dirt, he's taking pictures. But his suit this is an interesting episode because Devin and Bonnie and Michael are pretty much in the same outfit the entire episode, with a little exception. So we'll see here in a little bit in later scenes. You'll see Devin and his suit is still filthy, which I thought was a nice piece of continuity. Okay, so we're back to Michael. He's wearing this is one of my top 2 ugly shirts that Hasselhoff wears as Michael Knight in Knight Rider. I think the other one is that really high collared shirt he wears in Goliath Returns and Night of the Chameleon. But we're still in the original season 1 and 2 hero car. For some reason they have taped the T-top handle closed, but you can see the colored buttons again for the overhead there. That's kind of a dead giveaway. All right, so the Nitroplastique has been stolen by Pelsi and Corso. They're heading off into the middle of nowhere. And their Jeep, their getaway vehicle, if you remember in the scene where they're stealing everything, it says Bob's Plumbing Supply on the side, and it's wearing a different license plate than this. So, and this Jeep here does not have the Bob's Plumbing Supply on the side. So clearly it was 2 separate Jeeps. They had a hero Jeep and a stunt Jeep, and this is the other one, and they just forgot to apply those decals on the side. But yeah, the license plates of the 2 Jeeps are completely different. All right, so then we transition back to Michael, and all of a sudden he is not in the hero car anymore. This is now the 3rd season dedicated insert car, making one of its first appearances production-wise. And we can tell some of the differences. We don't have the chrome trim on the door. We've got this black trim. We don't have the Pirella cloth here. We've got the Palex cloth, which was 1983 and up. The buttons up here are not colored like they are on the season 1 and 2 hero car. And other little things. You can see that the deluxe carpeting panels are not on this car. The hero car from season 1 and 2 did have the carpeted panels back here. We got a screw here, some holes here. So this is the season 3 insert car. All right, so let's take another look at this, the Jeep, again, while we're thinking about it. So this is the stunt Jeep, we'll call it. Note the license plate, 1JVB994, and look at the bumper. See how it's smooth the whole way across here, and then you got the edge pieces. Now let's take a look at the hero Jeep. You can see it's wearing 187 DEC, and take a look at this. It's got these bumper accents. I don't know what you want to call them right there. So you can clearly tell it's 2 different Jeeps. Anything else different about them? Looks like this one only has 1 roof rack. This one has 2. I'm sure there's other differences. It almost looks like the grill's different, but that could just be the lighting of everything. Yeah, clearly 2 different Jeeps. Anyways, moving on. All right, so here we are. So now we're back in the hero car. So like what I was saying, see how the colored buttons, see the chrome trim here, no coat hook, screw hole, or a screw there, carpeted panels. All right, you guys get it. Let's move on. All right, so here is KITT getting electrocuted. This is one of the Sessoms and Schlegel models here, and some of the models, not all of them, some of them actually had a Michael Knight figure, and that's the silhouette you see right there. All right, Michael getting electrocuted. This is now the season 3 hero car. So just like in KITT versus Car, if you remember when we were talking about the hero car in that episode, we don't really see the hero car much. We get one brief glimpse of it whenever KITT confronts Carr at Mr. D's Marine. But other than that, we really don't see it too much. And that's the same for Lost Night. I think they were still finishing up the details on the car, so they didn't really show it up close. But this is that hero car. And do we have a white wire? It might be pushing it. I can't. That could be a white wire right there. That could be the white wire of the hero car. I don't know. And for those of you who want to say that, well, Pelsi and Corso removed the Bob's Plumbing Supply after they stole the Nitroplastique so they wouldn't get caught. Here it is again later, and the logo is still on the Jeep way after Michael and KITT are electrocuted, and this is on their way to their hideout. So, no. So, Anthony James here. How many of you guys think he absolutely embodied the perfect villain in pretty much anything he played? He just has that that look, right? And outside of Knight Rider, there's one other production that I remember him from as a child.
Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind.
Can it be that it was all so simple then? Or has time rewritten it?
All right, so now Michael is leaving the hospital against medical advice, the Kirkland Medical Center. This is actually a building on the Universal Studios property. And we've got Alice Nunn playing the nurse. And let's be honest, people don't remember her. Even Knight Rider fans probably don't remember her for this role. They remember her for this.
And when they finally pulled the driver's body from the twisted, burning wreck, it looked like this.
Scared the crap out of me as a kid. Bonnie and Devin pull up in the limo. In the background, we've got the yellow Volkswagen once again making an appearance. And take a look at this. Look at Devin's clothes. Look how dusty they still are. Again, something I never noticed until you get the Blu-ray and you see that nice crisp picture. But he's still, obviously, he came right from the demolition site. You can see Bonnie in the background. She still has that purple blouse on. So this is still the same day, but Devin is clearly very dusty here. All right, so Jason Bateman, right? Is he perhaps the biggest guest star in Knight Rider's history? I think he might be, at least in terms of star power today. I mean, even back then, for Knight Rider to get Jason Bateman was a pretty big deal because you have to remember, he was an in-demand child actor. He had a reoccurring role in Silver Spoons, which was quite popular. And right around this time, he was preparing to film a new series called It's Your Move. I think it only lasted one season, but Jason Bateman was he was paid more than the adult actors, the adult guest stars in this episode. I mean, it was a really, really big deal for him to get on this show. And many years later, actually last year, he briefly talked about his role on Knight Rider. So let's take a listen.
Sunday on Knight Rider, a shocking accident destroys Kit's memory.
Stay away from me.
Can guest star Jason Bateman help Michael save him?
There was an episode of Knight Rider, I remember, where I was 15, so I couldn't yet legally drive, but I got to drive the KITT car, the Knight Rider car. I remember that was even more exciting than skipping school. I got to drive this Trans Am, and of course David Hasselhoff being there was pretty sweet too. Skip school, drive a car, chum it up with the Hoff.
What's this?
Okay, so here we have the left-hand blind drive car. Now, you'd be forgiven if you thought this was the right-hand blind drive car, but remember, the right-hand blind drive car does not exist at the time this was filmed. But look how high up the passenger seat is here. But actually, there's no one over here. There's someone driving right here, probably Jack Gill. But they must have put the seat up so high just to make it look even. But then you go to the next scene, and this is still the left-hand blind drive car, as you can see, but the seat is a lot further down. So not really sure why they'd have this seat propped up. I mean, the top of the seat's almost touching the roof. I mean, that's really, really high up. But it's definitely the left-hand blind drive car in both of these images. And then you can see here from the back, there's the shroud right there of someone driving it on the left-hand side. All right, so we have Conrad Mars, played by Bill Cross here, and they actually went to the Beverly Garland to just take these few pictures of Conrad Mars, these spy shots. They actually stopped at the Beverly Garland. Now, the Beverly Garland has been used in Knight Rider many, many times. Forget Me Not, Hearts of Stone, Custom Kit, Let It Be Me. So they went back to a familiar filming location, but they literally did it just to snap these few pictures of Conrad outside. Okay, so now Doug has taken Kit to the cave, which is at Bronson Canyon. And one thing I wanted to point out here, you see how this car has the tow bar receiver hooks on it, I guess you could say. you'll notice starting in season 3, KITT doesn't have... There's still the tow bar receivers underneath a lot of the cars. But this extra piece, which actually slides into the receivers, that contains these rounded ends to allow the camera truck to hook into the car to pull it. This bar, they would cease putting on the Knight Rider cars. They would only put it on whenever they were towing KITT. But here, this car still has that receiver setup, the old style receiver setup, I guess you could say. And it wouldn't be too much longer in the series. Just these first few filmed episodes from season 3 have this, and then this goes completely away, and we just see the square tube receivers tucked up under the front nose. Kind of gives KITT a cleaner look out front. All right, and this is the new, but you really don't see it, hero car. The only way we know that is because we see this green cap on the steering wheel, and that green cap tells us that this is the hero car for the season 3, because this is the only car that ever had that on it. It was this car and then the insert dash that sat on a soundstage. And for some reason, usually these blackouts are black, but this one almost looks tan in here. I'm not sure why. So then this is obviously the insert dash that sat on a soundstage, the one we're currently restoring. And this is really one of the first times they were filming with this new dash here. So you can see, what do we see here? The buttons are pretty much as you would expect, except some of these have like Turbo 2, Turbo 1, Eject, just EJT left. And those are ones, whenever you see close-ups, you never see these buttons. These were on the original insert dash, but they changed the labels because, like, eject left would actually say eject. It would spell it out, and left would be underneath it. But here it's just EJT left. Just little details like that. All right, so for this ejection scene, you can tell here, this is actually not a PMD seat. This is just almost looks like a flat piece of cardboard or something. But they put a real ejection apparatus in here to launch that book bag out of the car. It wasn't on fishing line or anything like that was pulled out. And they did that a lot in season 1 with the ejection seat. They even ejected a person out of it. But for this episode, they used that ejection apparatus, but they really didn't use it much going forward. And this is the season 3 insert car, and we can tell that because of this low-hanging overhead console. So this is the one with the working T-tops right here, which is how you see it go, how you see it open in this scene. Okay, Michael arrives at Wainwright Nursery, and here's that yellow Volkswagen once again. And when he pulls in, just something neat, many years later, and a lot of you guys know this if you've been following the channel, but these license plates that are on this Jeep, I own. By accident, I own it. I bought a lot of 350 prop license plates from an abandoned LA storage locker many, many years ago, and these exact plates were in there, along with a couple other Knight Rider plates, a Smokey and the Bandit plate, and some other old TV shows of the 70s and movies, 70s and 80s. But this plate was still there. It still even has those exact same stickers on it. The 84 is even a little crooked. So that certainly was a really cool score. All right, so here we have Lenore Kasdorf playing Lauri Wainwright. She returns again in Fright Night. We talked to her a number of years ago. She didn't have too many memories of her time filming, but she did remember working with Jason Bateman and how neat it was and how so many years later he had such success in his career, and she thought it was really neat that she got to work with him kind of at the beginning of his career. All right, so here we see Michael in the Jeep driving what appears to be the middle of nowhere. This is the Pico Canyon area, and as I understand, this is all closed roads. You can't just drive through here, but this was used back in the 70s and 80s for, seems like nearly every TV show filmed out here. Anytime they were wanting to film a place that looked like it was in the middle of nowhere, they went out to Pico Canyon because there was miles and miles of roads. There was nothing around, and they could do whatever they needed to do out here. Knight Rider filmed, it feels like almost every episode out here. It wasn't every episode, but it was a ton, and it's a beautiful landscape. And I believe it still looks like this today. It hasn't been developed or anything like that, so let's hope it stays that way. Doug is leaving in KITT here, and this is cool. Jason Bateman actually got to drive KITT in this scene, and you can see here this isn't the hero car. This is one of the stunt cars. In fact, this is the tan A-pillared car, as you can see here. It has a stock dashboard, a small round stunt wheel, so he had the unique opportunity to drive KITT, albeit not very far, just kind of through this scene, but also has, I don't know if you can see it here, just barely, rear defrost. There's the rear defrost lines. And then Doug turbo boosts over the ravine. This is reused footage. This is the most reused turbo boost in the entire series. Although this one is from a different angle. You can see one of the acrylic turn signal covers flying off there. And they reversed the footage, I guess, to make it look a little different. So if you look real close, you can see the hood scoops on the wrong side of KITT. And Michael Knight's jacket's hanging out the passenger side windshield on this frame here. All right, and then we have the one and only appearance of the evade function in KITT, which seems kind of pointless, right? I mean, he presses evade, Doug presses evade, and KITT spins around, and that's it, when you could easily just achieve that effect with turning the wheel and hitting the gas. But still made for a cool scene. All right, so now we've got Doug driving KITT. This is that Season 3 insert car. And for some reason, there's a newspaper right behind the driver's seat there. But then whenever he hits the button, it cuts and it comes back and it's gone. And if you watch this scene, that paper will be there and won't be there. It will be there and it won't be there. So just a Easter egg? I don't know. Not an Easter egg. Just a little goof, I guess. Okay, so now we're at the Wainwright house. This is in Chatsworth, California. And if we look at it today, that's what it looks like today. Pretty much the same, right? Still white with blue accents, although the blue's a bit more sky blue now. And anything else? Everything else looks pretty much exactly the same, doesn't it? I mean, it looks like they removed this tree here, and it's now replaced with a new tree. But other than that, that house is exactly the same. So it's on Celtic Street in Chatsworth, California. Take a listen to this when Doug says, "Not very."
How hungry are you?
What? Oh, not very.
Even as a little kid, when I was a little kid watching this, again, back on WWOR, I remember this scene. I remember when he said that, and I thought, man, he wasn't acting very well in that scene, because he sounds like a robot when he says, "Not very."
Oh, not very.
And it's one of those things, one of those weird, obscure memories of watching this as a kid that's always stuck with me. So every time I watch this scene and I hear him say that, I think he wasn't acting very well. Jason Bateman didn't act that scene very well.
Not very. Not very. Not very. Not very.
All right, so here's what I'm talking about. So it's nighttime, and we're 3/4 of the way through the episode, and Michael's still wearing his same outfit. Devin's still wearing his same outfit there. But we do see Bonnie come in, and she did change, probably because she was filthy from all the dirt from the demolition site, but apparently Devin and Michael didn't have time to change. All right, so let's take a look at Doug's room, because I always find this fascinating, the rooms of the, whenever you see someone's personal room or an office from, you know, the 1980s, like, what are they into? You know, if Doug was a real person, what was he into? Well, clearly, here's a fishing pole, right? And we knew that because when we first meet Doug, he talks about thinking Michael was the game warden, busting him for fishing in the reservoir. So we know that, but we move over here, and what do we see? He's got like a model ship and a radio, and all right, so right here we've got a poster for the band Toronto and their album Girls Night Out, which came out in 1983 by MCA Records, which was affiliated with Universal at the time, MCA Universal. We've got Headpins, Line of Fire, also 1983, also MCA Records. And then we've got this one up here. And I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with this cover. Chances are it's 1983 MCA Universal, but let me know in the comments below. Who is this? What band is this? What else is Doug into besides Toronto and Headpins? And then finally, as Doug leaves, we see this other poster for Van Stevenson, Righteous Anger, 1984 MCA. So he has some interesting musical taste, I'd say. And another sighting, just barely, of the yellow Volkswagen right there. Okay, so now we're at the Wainwright Nursery. In reality, this is the Topanga Nursery in Chatsworth, California. If we look at it today, you can see the sign is similar. It's reminiscent of what it was back then, but otherwise, it's a real nursery, and it's still a nursery today. And in fact, if we move forward here, we see Michael pulling up, and right there is kind of the angle that we see. See, look at that. I love this stuff. Look at this. Right here. Obviously this block wall stopped here, but they added these additional layers. Look at this. Even today, they just look a little brighter than the ones below it. That's really cool. And they've added solar panels to this house behind there. Very cool. All right, Michael avoids getting shot. If you look closely, this is not Anthony James. This is Al Jones right there, who's part of the Night Rider stunt crew. And this, you can't tell here, but this is Andy Gill. We have this great behind-the-scenes shot, courtesy of Andy Gill, of him all dressed up to look like one of the bad guys. All right, so this is the first time we see KITT's CPU insert, the insert board or whatever of the CPU. We'll see this a few other times in the series, but also take a look at this. Michael is wearing his Comlink watch, but the original version without the label over it. So this is like your the advance model of radio watch, the one used to make Michael's Comlinks, but without the overlay on top of the screen. And I think this is the only time in the series we ever see this, which is kind of neat. Yeah, so here's what I'm talking about. So this insert shot, this would have been on a soundstage, this supposedly showing KITT's CPU opening. I'm not sure why there's CPU 1, 2, and 3, but this board right here is the same board they used for KITT's CPU in Soul Survivor, that little handheld unit that Michael found in the trash in Adrian Margot's house. This is that same board. They took it out of that box and put it in here, which is, if you think about it, it's a nice piece of continuity, right? Because that is KITT's CPU. They took it out of him, so it should be in here whenever they're showing KITT's CPU. All right, we get this great shot. This is not in a car. This is the insert shifter, I guess you could say, the insert lower console, and you could see the insert dash a little bit up here. And you don't even really realize this, but whenever you look at this, but this shifter and this lower console sit a lot further away from the dash than they would if they were in an actual car. All of this stuff, this shifter should be way up here, but it's all the way down here, just for filming purposes, right? So this was probably on some kind of a block of wood, and they built this out to be what it is. And we own this insert lower console, and I think once we finish the insert dash, we should build this insert lower console as well. I think that'd be really, really cool. All right, so now we jump ahead. Michael has saved Doug, and this is the hero car. You can tell that the season 2 hero car, excuse me, and you can see, we've talked about this before, the fog lights, how the outer ones have been removed, and then you see again this insert shot. There's the hero car buttons, and when you see them start to drive away, you can actually see the season 2 dash right there. And this is the insert car for season 3. So they're just jumping around on all different cars here, but this is the only car that had such a poor fitting overhead console, and that's because this was the car that had the working auto roof, which we talked about at length in our Knights of the Fast Lane episode commentary. And this is the absolute best picture you'll ever see of the inside of the overhead console in that season 3 insert car. Just take a look at this. That's the mechanism that opens the T-top. And look how they just cut away the fiberglass of the overhead to make that mechanism work. And then here you have a cutout for where the buttons would be, but there's nothing there. It's just a void right there. But then you got these fake buttons underneath. And the console, you can see how thick the console is. It just sits down a lot further than a normal console, and that's because they needed to fit in the mechanics for the T-top, the mechanism to open the T-tops right there. All right, so KITT Turbo Boost, this is the roll-caged acrylic window jump car. And for those of you who are curious, they used a ton of cars in this episode. We have the Season 2 insert car, the one that we currently own. They have this hardtop stunt car. They've got the Season 2 hero car. They've got the Season 3 hero car. They have the hardtop stunt car, the tan A-pillared T-top stunt car, another general purpose T-top stunt car, the left-hand blind drive car, and the Season 3 insert car. So we're packing in, 9 different Knight Rider cars in this one episode. And if you look closely during the launch, the license plate fell off right there. And for those of you familiar with the blooper reels, you can actually see the landing of this turbo boost, which we'll show you now.
We're in Acapulco.
And coming in for a landing, once again, we spot the walkie-talkie right here on Jason Bateman's lap as they're landing. This was for them to communicate with the camera car in front of them. And then we see this flip. This is the hardtop stunt car. But did you ever notice whenever this roll happens, the back wheel of this SUV actually hits KITT? And if you look closely, look at the gap right here. So there's some gap between the tire and the fender. And look here, there's no gap. You can see the front end of KITT get forced down. It no doubt did some decent damage to the other side of that car, which unfortunately we can't see. There. See how it crunches down even a little further? And this is the end of the road for the SUV that premiered all the way back in Season 1. We saw it in a number of episodes in Season 1 and Season 2. The Topaz Connection, we saw it in Nobody Does It Better. We saw it in Big Iron. And they just kept reusing and reusing this SUV. Well, this is the end of the line for that SUV. It, of course, was not repaired after this, but this is your giveaway. This is that same orange SUV from the Topaz Connection going out in a blaze of glory. And then this ending scene where Michael's wanting a high five. I think Jason Bateman forgot that was supposed to happen, because if you watch this, Hasselhoff holds out his hand and Jason's not doing anything, so Hasselhoff bumps him on the arm and then he remembers and gives him the high five. So I think that was a mistake, just to remind Jason that he was supposed to do the high five. And the final scenes in the episode, they didn't even bother trying to hide the dash of the Season 2 hero car right there. Maybe they thought because you could only see one monitor that no one would realize it's that car, but whatever. Okay, well, that wraps up one of my absolute favorite episodes, Lost Night. Coming up next on our episode commentary, we're going to dive into Night of the Chameleon. There's a lot of neat things to go over in that episode. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next time.
And now, while we listen to Joe's selection of Knight Rider music that we received directly from Don Peake himself, we'd like to thank these Patreon supporters. Look at you guys scrolling up the screen to my right. Wait a minute, how can you tell which side is my right, since you can't see me because I'm not on camera? Oh well, you know what I mean. We're featuring these fine supporters at our Knight Rider Prop Restorer level. Thank you very much for your support. And for those of you at the Knight Rider History Hunter level, we're recognizing you right now in the description. Now, if you enjoyed seeing this golden nugget of Knight Rider history being rescued from obscurity, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support would empower us to bring you even more of these historical nuggets. We are the Knight Rider Historians. Till next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.